Panelist, he's coming in as a panelist now. Bang on time at 2 p.m. Right, let me get my questions up. Although I feel like this is going to be a very ad hoc interview because Reuben and I know each other already, and so we've got lots to catch up on. Hello, how are you?
Hello, Sam. I'm good, you know. I find this really interesting knowing that so many people are just lurking in the backgrounds watching, and I can't even see a chat or a face. So, hello, whoever you are. And good to
No.
see you, Sam. I love that pink on you. It
Oh,
bangs.
thank you so much. Yeah. It's a bit of a grandma cardigan, but I kind of love it. It's
I
hand
quite like
knitted.
it.
I got it on Vinted. Quick plug for Vinted. um, okay, so Ruben, you are the first speaker in our radio and podcast section. You actually do a lot more than radio and podcast as well, but that is one of the things that you do. Do you want to tell me, well, introduce yourself, tell us about the variety of stuff that you do, but yes, and make sure to include podcasts, presenting, that kind of stuff.
Oh, all right. And you know what? Whenever I'm asked this question, I'm always stumped. And every single time I answer it, I've evolved ever so slightly, being the creative person that I am. So my answer is different. So today, I would say that I'm an edutainer,
Yes.
right? An edutainer is someone that is part educator, part entertainer. I started my career off back in the day on YouTube, making YouTube videos that some people, funnily enough, found funny. And then they were like, oh, we think you're quite funny. Do you mind hosting a gig for us, like a variety show? And I was totally scared to do it. But because I was scared, I done it, which is something we might be able to come back to later on. And then I became a host and I was hosting stages around the creative scene in London for about 15 years. So variety shows, comedy shows, music festivals, music gigs. And then people asked me to like moderate panels and interview people. So that kind of started my presenting career. And then I started doing stand-up comedy for a little while because I was scared. So I was like, oh, I'm scared. I don't like being scared. Let me grow past the fear. And I've done stand-up for a little while. And then fast forward a couple of years, I kind of found this intersection that is edutainment, which is where I met you on the journey because I've created something called Dream Rehab, which is a space where we co-create our best lives as creative people. We come together, we share our challenges, and we see how we can help each other out. And it was at that point in my journey, which was 2016, 2017, I believe, that I met you. And I remember doing a Dream Rehab kind of talk session at one of your live career festivals. And that has gone on to me doing more workshops and more facilitation, coaching, mentoring. And then with the podcasting side, I've started up three of my own podcasts. The first one I done by myself, and then I kind of like burnt out and I learned from that. The second one I done with three people. We like co-created this show and that went on for 2 years. And the last one, which is What Is This Behaviour podcast, I've done with two of my other co-hosts, my brother Aaron and my good friend Almas, and we're South Asian people that have been in the creative industry, and we didn't see enough people like us doing interesting things. And we knew that there are loads of us around, but just no one has seen them. So the podcast was about shining a light on those people. It's called What Is This Behaviour podcast, and now 10 episodes, I think, are available on British Airways. So that was a big win for us. And that's where the podcast journey ends. And where I am now is doing a lot of speaking and coaching mainly around visibility and speaking. So helping people get out there to promote themselves and their work because I've been doing it for like 20 plus years. My answer.
I actually think that was an amazingly concise potted history because you have done so much.
Oh,
Like,
thank you.
well done for keeping it succinct.
Yeah.
And yeah, good memory. We met back in 2016, I think, at one of our first ever festivals. So that's unbelievable. Oh my God, your memory is insane. Okay, so it's quite obvious. I mean, radio and podcast is a voice. It's a voice-based, medium, and it's very clear that that has kind of been a theme throughout the whole of your career. Whatever you're doing, you're always speaking, right? Um,
Mm.
how do you think that young people watching can start developing that kind of skill of speaking, getting over that confidence barrier as well? Because it does take a lot to put yourself out there. Even if it is just your voice, that is quite a big thing to do.
Yeah, it's so great you asked this question today because this morning I've just come off the back of delivering an imposter syndrome workshop with New Direction, Good Growth Hub down in Hackney Wick. And we were talking about this, right? So, from my personal lived experience and from the spaces that I facilitate, the first thing is just talking about what the pain points are. You know, I think if we have a conversation one to one with someone, or better off, we do it in a group, whether it's a classroom or a community, and we talk about what those fears are, the first thing we'd realize is that everyone in the room is having the exact same fears.
Mm.
And just to know that you are not alone with your doubt and with your fears is the first part, right? It humanizes your fears. You're not broken, you're not different, you're normal. I'd even go as far as saying that if you don't have any fears around speaking, then there might be something to look at. Because to be scared of going into a new space and putting yourself out there is totally normal. And once you've kind of landed on that, then it's working out how can we support each other to take what I call teeny small tests of being visible and speaking. So if you're talking about sharing some of your art or your work, or you want to talk about what you do, rather than saying, oh, I'm going to start up a YouTube account, which will make you really scared and maybe overwhelmed, you just say, I might just create a little video, put it on my Instagram, but I'm going to make it private. So no one would even see it. But how do I feel now that it's there as an option to go out to the world? You know, so basically we want to take small, teeny steps in sharing in small environments, and then we incrementally get to big ones where it might be stages if that's something we might want to do.
That's such a good piece of advice because you can absolutely do that. You can, I think we always, as humans, end up thinking, dreaming about that big goal, you know, going straight to, oh, I need to do that. I need to get there as quickly as possible. When you're so right, like the little steps are so much more effective, a slower entry, if you will.
Yeah.
Um, so you've already kind of told us a bit about your kind of history and the fact that you kind of did that in your own career, didn't you? You kind of started putting yourself slowly out there as a speaker, as a facilitator, and then one thing led to another. People started noticing, and you know you've done lots of different things as a result. A portfolio career, I would definitely describe you as having.
Yeah.
Do you think that there's lots of people in the kind of speaking space that do have a kind of portfolio career that you are able to diversify lots of the things that you do?
Yeah. So is the question asking if people in my space that are speaking also have portfolio careers? Is that what you're
Yeah,
asking?
yeah. Is that a common thing?
Yeah, it's a really common thing because by that time they've actually got quite a lot to speak about, right? I think a lot of people, especially young people getting into the creative industries, but also people that I know that are my age, which I won't divulge, and older, are always a little bit worried about, oh, I haven't picked one thing, so I can't speak about it, or I don't know what direction to take. But what I've learned, and I think Sam, me and you have had these conversations, that like creative careers are quite squiggly. And sometimes the more squiggly they are, the more we learn about ourselves en route and the more we get closer to what it is we might want to do. And when it comes to speaking about that stuff, we have that lived experience and that knowledge to speak about
Yeah.
the thing, right? And also from our own lived experience. So yeah, a lot of speakers I know have gone on squiggly careers and have a portfolio career. And I've almost used to beat myself up for it. I used to think, man, I don't know what I'm doing, or I don't know what direction I should go. But I realized my essence is to explore creatively. And once I gave myself permission to do that, I picked up loads of different skills on the way. And I started to realize, actually, I don't like that stuff. I like this stuff. And I've been like leveling up all the things I'm good at. And now I can speak about those, if that makes
Mhm. Yeah, that totally makes sense. And what do you think is like the bit of your journey that you learnt the most in?
Great question. I think I'm still learning it, right? So the bit that I'm constantly intrigued by, inspired by, and irritated by is that every single time I level up, I'm always a bit scared. Always. Like you would think, okay, Rubes, I've been doing this for, and I speak to myself when I say Rubes, yeah. Like, Rubes, you've been doing this for 20 years. Why are you scared of X? But the reason I might be scared or fearful of X is because it's a level up, right? And every time I level up, whether it's YouTube to live stage, from live stage to stand up, from stand up to keynote speaking to facilitation, and it's going to keep going up. Every time I do level up, I'm met with the same kind of worries and fears and imposter syndrome. And I just find that fascinating. That's why now I speak about it so much because I realize you can't solve it, you can only manage it. And ironically, now I speak about that, still
Yeah,
having it.
full circle, absolutely. Um, so let's talk quickly about the podcast because that is, you know, the focus of this session.
Mm.
How hard was it to start your own podcast? And you've, like you say, you started many.
That's
By the time the third came around, because the third has done phenomenally well, it's really successful.
Thank you.
How hard was it to, I guess, kind of go through that journey?
Mm.
Like, what is the advice that you would give to a young person watching who wants to
Right.
be a podcaster?
I When I first started my first podcast, there was so much excitement and passion and energy for the idea. That was the fuel that kept me going. I did not think about how many little obstacles I might need to overcome because if I started to list them out, Sam, I probably wouldn't have started, right? So it's the passion. And it was like, I think the world really needs this. At the time, the podcast was called Do You. It's about finding your own path. Like going against the grain and just doing you. That was amazing. I was really passionate about that idea. I spoke to loads of people that were kind of living life on their own terms. And it was the passion and the excitement for the project that started to get it over the line. And every time it was received well and I would get a compliment, that would put more fuel in the tank, right? But then as I've progressed through different shows, what I've realized is if I was to go, I don't think I would give old me any advice, because that would kill the passion. I have to like organically go on this journey and learn things, right? But what I can say about What Is This Behavior podcast, which was technically the most successful, if you want to measure success by where it's got to, that was the energy of me on podcast one times three. So I got with two people that was super passionate about this thing we're talking about and wants the world to change in this way. Those three people got together who are already quite creative. We pulled our resources and then we made the show and it done quite well. If we were to pick up the show and keep doing more episodes because it's currently on ice, what I would next do is get professional support in to do the things that we can't do so that we can just sit in and just lean into what we're exceptionally good at. Right. So rather than going in saying, I'm going to be a producer as well as the host, as well as the ideator, think who would like to produce that doesn't want to be a host, that would just love to produce. They can do that. And if you want to be the host, you can just really get into hosting.
I see. Okay, amazing. So really, what like a young person could do is they could assemble their friends. If they wanted to be a host, then they could assemble people that wanted to produce it, to edit it, all of that kind of stuff. So you need to pull resources and talent together.
Right. Exactly that. And I would say get together and start having a chat. Like rather than thinking of this as, oh, we're going to make a podcast, it's going to be really well and it's going to do 100 episodes, get rid of all of that and say, let's just get together and record a chat about something that we all care about and then play it back. And when you play it back, you'll be like, oh, I think this is a podcast. And then you can think about finding all the tools out there that can help you get it on Spotify, which is super simple, by the way. But just start with the passion of the thing first. And then when you hear it back, that would energize you to take the next step. For me, it's just been a series of steps and then things emerge afterwards and
Amazing.
opportunities come afterwards. Yeah.
I love that. And did you ever think that you would end up being a podcaster when you first started your career? Well, I guess.
No, no, I didn't, Sam. I didn't. I imagine you just never imagined that you would be here
No, no.
creating an amazing thing like this. It
Yeah.
was, I was just, what I knew is I didn't want to do that. But I think I'm going to go in that direction. And so I'll go in that direction. Something will work for a little while and I'll stick with it. And then my career has kind of been that. But it's taking risks. It's following where the energy is. Follow the energy is what's worked for me.
I love that. I think that is actually a really, like key piece of advice. If you're not passionate about something and you want to be in a creative space, then really, you have to be passionate to be creative.
You know what? I think the passion can come a little bit later sometimes. I think some people can be so scared that the passion doesn't even come up.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
sometimes going to like following things that we're quite good at, we'd get into zones which would ignite the passion. So for those that aren't passionate, yeah, there's still loads of options for you guys.
Hmm. And tell us really quickly, because we've only got a couple of minutes left, about Dream Rehab, because I do really want the young people watching to know about.
Oh, oh, thanks, man. So Dream Rehab is my baby. It's an event where we co-create our best lives. It's a space that I've created where people can come together. I facilitate the space. It's very light. It's very fun. The first half is dream. We talk about our creative dreams and we talk about our fears and what's blocking us. Then we have a break. And then the second part is rehab. Now, this is where everyone in the room becomes a super brain and we work out how to help each other out move towards those dreams. In a nutshell, that's what Dream Rehab is. I might take it on tour this year depending if some funding comes through. But even if I don't do that, I offer it as like a community mixer for different communities. So if there's organizations or communities that would want me to come and run Dream Rehab for your people, I'm here for that. It's about co-creating our best lives, ultimately.
I absolutely love that. And I feel like that is so great as an exercise anyway for the young people if they're not sure necessarily what they want to do creatively, but they are sure that that is a direction, the energy that they want to kind of go lean into, like you were saying. Any questions for Reuben, put them in the chat. I highly recommend asking him stuff about how to be more confident, get more motivated, find that creative spark, that kind of stuff. That really is where his expertise is, even though it's in many, many, many different areas as well. So really ask him anything. But yes, thank you so much, Reuben. That is all we've got time for. We are